We do not sacrifice children. The foundation of Satanism is built upon the self and carrying out the devil's work. Hail Satan!
Hail, Hail Satan!
Hail Satan!
Hail Satan!
Hi, my name is Zeke Apollyon, and I am the chapter head for the Satanic Temple, London and UK. Welcome. I think what attracted me most to Satanism was just, I think, how preposterous a lot of stuff that was coming from people who called themselves Christians. These people are extremists, they're religious extremists, that use Christianity to kind of further their extremism. Some of these people have blood on their hands, and so I figured if they could do horrible things in the name of Jesus, then I could do wonderful things in the name of Satan. It's so liberating. It is so liberating. I don't think I've ever felt as in my own skin as I do as a Satanist, because part of it is looking at like ugly sides of yourself and being able to sort of reconcile that, and looking at ugly sides of humanity. No. I don't want to catch anything, and I'm pretty sure other people don't either. People get in touch with us, and we just have a conversation. A lot of times what people want is community. A lot of people feel like outsiders, and so they come to us because they're looking for people that are accepting. They do not come around anymore. They came over one time when we were having a big ritual, and they must have seen it on my face or something, because I opened the door to come out to get something, and they were walking up the path, and I was just like, no. And they just turned around and left, and I haven't seen them since. We still live in a time when people who are Satanists have to live incognito. But I think in terms of misconceptions about Satanists, I think, people think that we sacrifice babies, that we are engaged in some kind of underground sex trafficking. And I've definitely met some babies that I haven't really gotten on with very well, but I've never actually killed one. There's a little girl in the window right there. Satanism, it's been a philosophy or a way of life for people for a very long time. For me, Satanism is really about not letting myself off the hook, and I believe, for me, that being a Satanist is about trying to continually advocate for people, especially people who aren't able to advocate for themselves. You could definitely go much worse than to use those things as your way to kind of move forward. Every day. In fact, somebody is probably right now asking us to put them in touch with the devil. People ask for riches, they ask if we can allow them access to the Illuminati. Some of the weirdest interactions are people who send us satanic prayers. People will sometimes ask us to pass on messages to the devil. And I'm like, we're not the devil's answering service. I wish. Satanism is a love affair with the self. Actually, I think one of the things that the Satanic Temple wants to do is actually sponsor an orgy. We do. But we would be there as people who would fold the towels, and we would make sure that a lot of us are trained. Some of us are medics. And what we would do is facilitate what would be a safe, consensual group sex practice for people, and it would benefit something.
One of the reasons that I wanted to make this film was that I personally related a lot to the Satanists and their mission, not because I'm a Satanist or because I'm particularly engaged in like a church-state battle of my own, more that I feel a kinship with people who choose to do the difficult work of being heretics. society needs skeptics and it needs outsiders to stand up for themselves and to like fight against the dominant ideas. We need that. That's really healthy to have that. And so I really appreciated the role that they were taking on in this particular cultural context. And I related to it personally because I feel a kinship to the kind of person who kind of doesn't mind if their point of view upsets you. Like, it's like not a problem for me if my point of view upsets somebody. But it is a difficult thing to do. It does generate a lot of hate and animosity.
How do those themes around Satan and Satanism resonate right now?
For me, it seems kind of obvious that there's been a complete reversal in the roles of who's ostensibly the good guys and who are the bad guys. Right now, we have evangelical nationalists pushing a theocratic agenda in the United States and making great headway to take away people's reproductive rights, endorse corporal punishment in schools, spread pseudoscience or otherwise reject a scientific point of view in really undermining liberal democracy. So at this point, there seems to be an apparent intuitive grasp of what Satan can mean in a heroic context. And I think you see that vindicated in the film when you see how quickly we've grown and how much that kind of iconography has resonated with people. They instantly seem to grasp it. Some people don't, of course, and object to it outright, but we have seen that, it speaks to people in ways that we could have never predicted from the start.
The main challenge in figuring out how to structure the story of the film is simply that the Satanic Temple is doing so much. A lot of their activities that were really important and interesting didn't make it into the film. 95 minutes is not that long, especially because we wanted to make sure we covered the beginning. Like, we wanted this to feel like this is the origin story of the Satanic Temple. And we wanted to leave it feeling very much like this is not the end of the story. So it was difficult to leave a lot of the really amazing work they do out. And it was also a little bit difficult to predict what was going to happen. I mean, there was just a lot of activity, and we were chasing, different chapters around the country doing really exciting things in their local communities and, national campaigns. And there was just a lot to sort of navigate. But, we just tried to keep true to like what would be like the best starting point for an average audience member. And then with that in mind, how can we make sure we're not doing a disservice to the more informed Satanist who watches the film? And I don't want them to feel like their intelligence is being insulted. So finding the balance, with the uninitiated, and then also wanting to be sure that Satanists would like it too, was, I think, pretty hard. I think we did a good job, but it was difficult.
Since the start of the Trump administration, there's been even more pushback against what you do?
Yeah, but there's been also that kind of concurrent understanding of a need for the kind of activities that the Satanic Temple are doing. Within hours of Trump being declared president, our membership numbers really spiked. And if we looked at the metrics for our website and other kind of web activity, it was like a straight line upward on election night, because people realized that this was, if they viewed it as a joke before, it wasn't a joke anymore, and that the rise of theocracy was very real.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand just how big of a part the evangelical rights vote played in the election of Donald Trump. And we leave this out of the film because, frankly, we didn't want to look at his face. But, it's sort of in the world around us, right? As much as Donald Trump himself is certainly not a believer in anything, the evangelical right really did a lot of work to elect him. And so, and he's repaid them in various ways. And so I feel like the work the Satanic Temple is doing is particularly resonant now. I also think that we're in such dark political times that people who maybe typically wouldn't care what the Satanists have to say might be a little more open-minded in their desperation for answers.
But the theocratic right has been emboldened by the election of Donald Trump. And as soon as he was elected, you could see these kinds of bills against abortion being pushed to be passed in states like Texas and Ohio against fetal heartbeat bans as soon as the fetus starts a heartbeat. They were saying that's about 6 weeks. Sometimes women don't even know they're pregnant at that point, trying to ban abortions outright, and pushing other kind of theocratic agendas nationwide. And there's a very centralized, well-organized, well-financed force trying to undermine the very spirit of the United States Constitution and give exclusive privilege to one religious viewpoint. And we're really a grassroots movement without any of that financing and without any of that networking yet. And we're making great strides just because the law really is on our side, at least for now.
Do you see anything satanic about Trump?
No, we're not mindless agents of chaos. And when you look at Trump, he is absolutely mindless. That man is about as stupid as they could possibly get. He's not qualified to work a stock boy job at a grocery store. He's completely unaware of his failings, right? So there's no drive for knowledge there, and there's no real appeal to scientific fact upon which he bases his beliefs, which is something we strive to do every day. And it's not that we're just looking for disorder, chaos, and to undermine Western civilization. In fact, we're trying to really endorse for Enlightenment values, bringing reason and respect for science into bettering the human condition. And that has nothing to do with Trump's agenda.
Planning any big, stunts or sort of like ironic events or anything going forward that, we may hear about before long?
Well, we're actually researching now the possibility of opening up a protected reproductive rights clinic. And we're searching different states in which we could do that. And we want to move into lobbying and model legislation and openly do that in the name of a satanic lobby. And I think a lot of people will think up front that there's no way we can make any headway, but people thought that when we started doing anything we were doing. And I think we're just going to keep pressing forward and not taking into account, as we always have, not the way people respond when they hear Satanist. I mean, we're just going to show them who we are by what we do, and they can accept it or reject it.
At this time, we will have an invocation by David Suhor. This will be followed by a Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice President Brian Spencer. We can.
I object to the curses that be placed on our city. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done as man on earth as it is in heaven. Jesus. Give us this day our daily bread. Life, spirit, our nature, and strength.
I'm going to give you a chance to speak. If you deviate from what I feel is proper invocation speech, I will have you removed from the chamber.
That won't be an issue.
Okay.
However, I would ask that these people remain quiet, or at least a level where my invocation may be heard.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you to at least keep it to a low
No.
volume?
No, he's going to pronounce curses on us and you.
Then I'm going to have to ask you all to leave so that he can give his invocation.
No, we're not leaving.
Mr. President, may I be allowed to speak?
I can clear the chambers if I like. I don't want to have to do that.
Mr. President, may I be allowed
No,
to speak?
sir.
for one
No,
second?
sir. No, sir. This is the invocation. The void form is coming.
Being placed on the city council and the city and the Escambia County and our neighbors and our friends and family.
Mr. President, you
Okay.
allowed him last week to stand on the floor.
We need to have the chambers cleared this time. We need to have the chambers cleared.
I need everybody to exit the chamber. Let us stand now, unbowed and unfettered, by arcane doctrines, born of fearful minds in darkened time. Let us embrace the Luciferian impulse to eat of the tree of knowledge and dissipate our blissful and comforting delusions of old. Let us demand that individuals be judged for their concrete actions, not their fealty to arbitrary social norms and illusory categorization. Let us reason our solution with agnosticism in all things. Let us demand that individuals be judged for their concrete actions, not their fealty to arbitrary social norms and illusory categorization. Let us reason our solutions with agnosticism in all things, holding fast only to that which is demonstrably true. Let us stand firm against any and all arbitrary authority that threatens the personal sovereignty of one or all. That which will not bend must break, and that which is destroyed by truth should never be spared. Its demise, it is done.
One group now challenging the law, the Satanic Temple.
Yeah, the non-theistic religious and human rights group argues its members should be exempt from the abortion ban. Adam Bennett explains why.
This isn't the first time this organization has fought back against abortion restrictions, including here in Texas. Their officials say they are ready to help members who want an abortion within the first 24 weeks of pregnancy fight this law.
Not the church, not the state. Women must decide their fate.
This weekend, the battle over Senate Bill 8 that played out in Houston
is a savage assault on women's reproductive rights.
And across the state.
Tremendous victory for Texas and for the country.
Has now gone national. The Satanic Temple is based in Massachusetts, but has chapters across Texas. The group says its members are exempt from SB 8 under the Texas Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which bans government from infringing on religion. One of the 7 beliefs on the Satanic Temple's website reads, quote, "One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone." Another says, quote, "Beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs." The group's lawyers also sent a letter to the Food and Drug Administration last week, demanding members have access to abortion pills, which they say members use, quote, "in a sacramental setting." The letter cites the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which was created to allow Native Americans access to peyote for religious rituals. The group's co-founder said in a statement, quote, "We will not be intimidated into silence by an unjust law or an authoritarian state government. We intend to fight." Meanwhile, a pro-life group whose whistleblower site for SB 8 was taken down over the weekend also vowed to keep fighting.
Texas Right to Life is undeterred, and we're undaunted, and we're going to continue to help pregnant women.
As of this afternoon, that whistleblower website redirected back to the group's main page. We also reached out to the FDA for comment, but their press office is closed because of the federal holiday. We will update this story at KHU.com when we hear back. Back to you.
When When you hear the word Satanism, what do you think of? Dark, brooding, gothy teens sacrificing their neighbors' cats out in the middle of the woods at night, or listening to groups like Bauhaus and Sisters of Mercy? This is the public's general consensus of what an average Satanist is, yet in reality, they're people like you and me who have been mistreated by the media and much larger organized religions. This is in due part to the satanic panic that swept the nation in the 80s, claiming that children's daycare services were really just abusing children to use them within satanic rituals. Many of the people convicted are currently serving life sentences for crimes they most likely didn't commit. Satanism is a religion founded on the idea of loving and respecting yourself and others who deserve that love. Love is one of the most intense feelings felt by man. Another is hate. Forcing yourself to feel indiscriminate towards love is very unnatural. If you force yourself to love everyone, you only lessen the feelings towards those you should actually love. This is a verse from the Satanic Bible written by Anton LaVey in 1969. Modern Satanism has been seen at the forefront of many misunderstandings and misconceptions and is routinely ostracized by other religious groups due to the fact that the media seems to spread misconceptions, and Christianity also spreads those misconceptions. Satanism has absolutely nothing to really do with Satan. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. Everyone thinks, oh, she's a Satanist, she worships the devil. Well, really, I'm worshiping the Hebrew root of the word Satan as adversary. I'm worshiping the idea of knowledge and enlightenment and pride. LaVey has been quoted with saying that Satan has been the church, the best friend to the church. He's kept him in business all these years, and that's completely right. We feed off of fear, and Satan is seen as the author of lies and promoter of evil. But yet again, for Satanists, this isn't the case. Today, modern Satanism is, a majority of the groups actually promote the true and final separation of church and state and promote diversity. Yet it still begs the question of, why are we ostracizing them? What about them is so inherently evil? What is it? I felt those misconceptions when I stood on this stage just a few weeks ago and announced that I was doing my topic on Satanism. There was a collective audible gasp, immediate backlash. Everyone was like, oh, she worships the devil. Just because she's a bit, out there on the edgier side of life, of course, I just worship the devil immediately. My dad kind of thinks that as well, but, that's none of my business. From when that happened, I've dealt with a few things on this campus because of it. I've felt every stare, I've heard every whisper about how unmoral my topic is and how horrible of a person I am. I've heard stories from friends about how people had said that, oh, why is she able to do a talk on Satanism if you can't do one on Christianity? And yet, there, I say, yes, there's the point exactly. Misinformation, being misinformed. You can't connect the two like that. Because what I'm trying to say is that there's no issue with Satanism. There's never been an issue with Satanism. We're feeding off of what the media has to say. And the media is getting their information from Christianity, since it's the most widely practiced religion. And I mean, there's nothing wrong. You believe what you want to believe. I'm not saying you shouldn't believe what you want. I personally don't really believe in anything, but that's just me. I love and respect all of you. But the point of the fact of the matter is that we're letting this media, the media kind of fuel our life and determine what we're able and not able to do. A good example of this actually would be the 1968 film Rosemary's Baby. How many of you have seen it, actually? Okay, not very many, but that's okay. So in this specific scene that I'm talking about, there's a bunch of elderly people, which are, the quote-unquote Satanists, but really they just engage in a traumatizing rape scene that's, disguised as the satanic ritual. Of course, that's actually not the ritual, and it sounds like something that came straight out of the Satanic Panic, which would have happened the movie took place more than 10 years before any allegations would have been made. Another famous scene to come out of Hollywood depicting Satanism is from the 1999 cult classic film Eyes Wide Shut by Stanley Kubrick. Anyone seen that movie? Any Kubrick fans out there? Okay, literally only 2 of you. It's okay though. So, in this scene, there's a bunch of men and women gathered into a room, and there's a priest in the center wearing all red. And they have, I can't really go too much into it, because that spoils the plot of the movie, but this whole scene is fueled on sexuality, something that's definitely not absent within Satanism, but yet completely inaccurate. I think because I'm on the topic of that, I should actually show you guys what a satanic ritual is and what it looks like. For this, will be consulting the Satanic Book of Rituals written by Anton LaVey, and I will be guiding you through a satanic baptism. So, yeah. For a moment, I can't feel it. You know what? I don't need this. In the majestic light of the undefiled wisdom, awake and enter into the Arcadian wood, therein all lingering falsehoods shall be as dead as bark, stripped from thy trunk, where thy futile hypocrisies, known and unknown, shall no longer envelop thee in mind and body. Cast off thy white robe of lies and confront thy prince, revealed as thee once began life. Undraped and unashamed, thou mayest breathe again the first breath now as night winds freshen from the far reaches of Belial. This is our innate in the ceremony. The innate arises and would disrobe in this occasion and sits in the chair provided, his feet supported by a footstool. Though this, the black flame of Satan, the black flame referring to the candle that the priest would hold and pass 4 times under the soles of the innate's feet. Thou walketh in hell, thy senses are awakened to the joy of rebirth. The gates are flung wide, and thy passage is heralded by the deathless cries of his guardian beast. His serring brand shall be evermore emblazoned on thy consciousness. Its fiery meaning shall make thee flee. The priest would gesture with his hands in recognition of the air of enlightenment as he pours incense over the innate. We bring thy garden, O mighty Lucifer, the fragrances around thy therein. Vapors of millennia, which thou hast shared with thy chosen flock, are rekindled now to fill his chamber with thy presence. We toll the bell in thy name, and thereby summon the whispering voices of wonder from the regions of thine empire. Breathe of his breath, O brother of the night, and nourish thy warming brain. From the despair and agony of thy former direction, thy new path is tonight set forth by the brilliance of Lucifer's flame. His zephyrs now guide thy steps into the ultimate power which knowledge brings. The blood of those who fail is eternally bright on the jaws of death, and the hounds of night pursue their hapless quarry relentlessly. They who walk amongst us bear deceit. Verily, they shall perish in blindness. Turn thy back on the veil and despise them. Follow the black flame to unending beauty in mind and body. The priest would have earth in a container and would press the soil to the palms of the innate and then to their feet. Now, as before, when the mother of us all cushioned our past with the pure pagan silt of the ages, she offers herself anew as thy role of earth child emerges and pervades thy being. Return for this and all thy feet to her bosom. Reveal in the shimmering glow from the hearth of thy heart, and make thy pact of devotion with her children whose paws have tracked and learned the way of Belial. Seek and be glad, for infinity speaks only to those in self-realization who know and hear the heat of law. From the arid wastes and the bleaching bones of nothingness, thou cometh into our midst, with parched and swollen lips, with ears thirsting and words of truth. Thy quest has led thee to the shrouded and misty subterranean caves of the Leviathan. It is with this brine that all life springs forth. Within thee flows of remnant saline seas, maintaining thy kinship with the Desians of the deep, nameless creatures of dragon who, borne upon eternal tides, shall sustain thee, and they have sustained their land-dwelling brethren in eons past. Take comfort in thy briny heritage. Arise now, and wrap thyself in mantle of darkness, wherein all secrets abide. The priest would place an amulet of Baphomet upon them. I place the amulet of Baphomet upon you, and there will seal thy eternal commitment to Satan, Lord of thy chosen realm, and thy unyielding loyalty to the wondrous order of his creation. Rise thy right hand in the sign of the horns and receive this thine oath. Thou, who have forsworn the divine mindlessness, do proclaim the majesty of thine own being amongst the veils of the universe. Thou rejecteth oblivion of self and accepteth the pleasure and pain of unique existence. Thou art returned from death to life and declareth thy friendship with Lucifer, Lord of light, who is exalted as Satan. Thou receiveth the siegel of Baphomet and embraceth the black flame of cherished enlightenment. Thou hast assumed this eternal commitment of thine own violation without let or hindrance, this act being done on their own accord. I would have a sword, but I'm not allowed one. I don't know how to. Imagine this is a sword, guys. You want to kneel? Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
That's it.
Beware, literal-minded theists. The Satanic Temple is coming to a city hall near you, where devotees of Beelzebub plan to drink blood-like liquids, perform fetishized faux fetus flagellation, and challenge the legality of that beloved Ten Commandments tablet outside your municipal courthouse.
So the Satanic Temple is a new religious organization that was founded in 2013, kind of as a prank, but very quickly gained a huge amount of authentic followers.
Theatrical stunts aside, the Satanic Temple's support of freedom of expression, sexual liberation, and separation of church and state would seem to make them a libertarian-y bunch. But are they a political movement, a legit religion, or just a bunch of netherworldly trolls? Penny Lane is the director of Hail Satan, a hilarious and edutaining new documentary that examines how this bizarre movement started making its presence known in towns and cities across America. I sat down with Lane to find out what makes the Satanic Temple tick and what in the HE double hockey sticks their struggles with Christians, politicians, and the mainstream media says about religion and irreligion in America today.
So yeah, it went from being kind of a joke, political troll, which we can talk more about, to being an authentic religion in a very short period of time. So that's kind of the story of the film.
For people who haven't seen the movie yet, explain exactly what is it? What is the trollishness, and how does that trollishness transform into something else?
So the Satanic Temple is a religious organization for Satanists. Satanism predates the Satanic Temple. It's been around for about 60 years as a religious identity. A small religious identity. It's been around for 60 years. So the Satanic Temple seeks to gather up all these Satanists and advocate for their religious equality in the public sphere. And the way that they do that is that you kind of look around the United States of America and you find places where the evangelical right has decided that they want to bring religion into the public sphere, if that's prayer in public schools, or monuments on public land, or prayers before government meetings. The Satanic Temple says, great, well, you've now opened the public forum for religious expression. Since we can't discriminate amongst various religious expressions, we also would like to participate. And then mayhem ensues. Like, that's the kind of storyline for each one of these actions. And they've had dozens and dozens of similar actions around the country. So that's the trolling part, right?
Because and it's an airtight constitutional argument, right?
It's pretty hard to argue with, yeah.
I mean, they test the First Amendment in several jurisdictions, in Arizona, Missouri, where else? Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And
what do they find?
What do they find?
They find that we are extremely prejudicial about how we enforce the First Amendment. Surprise! We all know that. But there's something about the spectacle of the Satanists coming to town that really pushes the issue in a way that, as a lifelong atheist, I can say the atheists never seem to quite drum up the same level of attention, right? Like when the atheists come and want to put their bench next to the Ten Commandments, it doesn't quite capture the imagination the same way as a 9.5-foot tall, goat-headed deity.
Baphomet.
Surrounded by children.
That's Baphomet.
Yes.
Right, okay. Can you paint a picture of what this deity they're trying to put next to the Ten Commandments?
Yeah.
What is it? It's a great image. What is it?
So I'm going to describe it. It's got it's a bronze monument. It weighs 1.5 tons. It's got a goat head with a pentagram on its forehead. It's got Iggy Pop's chest, explicitly. And it is flanked by 2 children who are kind of adoringly looking up at it. And it's got sort of ambiguous gender elements as well.
Yeah, I like that sentimental aspect with the children. It's like it's for the kids,
It is, and you can sit in its lap. So it's
that's
nice to take pictures and
stuff.
No,
that's lovely, and it outrages people. Like, it really, people don't regard it as a joke or as a troll thing. They really are terrified by it, right?
Yeah.
Christian groups are. The media is worried about it, especially Fox News, as you love to point out. You like to poke them a little bit.
Not me. They do it. I'm just showing you.
You like to show it. I like. Let's not pretend you don't get a little joy out of that.
Why don't you back off and let people live their lives? In fact, why don't you do that, Lucian Graves?
Right, exactly.
If indeed that's your real name.
Because religion is a protected class. So
yeah, whatever.
Either take
you're
away
making
the
a nonsensical point, and I think you
or...
should crawl back into your hole.
Why are we all so gullible, is my question.
Well, you have to realize that, whatever world you live in or I live in, something like 90% of Americans believe literally in God.
90%.
I just made that number up.
Oh, okay,
it's a huge number.
Okay.
So most Americans are pretty superstitious at their core, and we have millennia of ideas about who Satan is and what Satan's going to do to Earth if he was to get hold of us, These are old ideas that are hard to get rid of. So when you say that you're a Satanist, on the one hand, there is an element at the core of it that is about trolling people, right? It's about poking people and sort of frightening them into a moment of shock. But the important thing with the Satanic Temple is that it doesn't stop there for them. They're not like, oh, look at these dumb people, they walk away. They want to then have a long conversation about religious pluralism in America. It's very important to say for your viewers that the Satanic Temple and Satanism more generally does not mean the worship of the devil. They are atheists at their core. They're not supernaturalists. Their religion does not rely upon belief in impossible things to function. Their religion is about taking kind of the best secular, humanist, Enlightenment values, wrapping it up in mythology, art, ritual, community, and all the good things about religion, and throwing out the part of religion that is about blind obedience to crazy ideas.
So it's these almost universal values, and we're all Satanists at heart.
A lot of people walk out of my film very troubled because they are trying to figure out, like, am I a Satanist? And it's a troubling thought for them, and it's an interesting position that I'm putting the viewer in, because I don't think most people thought they were going to have to justify why they're not a Satanist today.
That's like the feeling I have when I read Reason for the first time.
Yes, exactly.
So let's get into what they actually believe specifically. Separation of church and state, kind of freedom of sexuality and freedom of expression.
Certainly, bodily autonomy.
Bodily autonomy. Are these people like libertarians at heart? Kind of
They're
sounds
pretty
that way.
libertarian-y, I think, in general, but I don't think that they would all say that they are or have those politics expressly. They're not a political group, they're a religious organization, so you do find a range of political views within this religious organization, but when your religious tenets are about rebellion against authority, checking your beliefs against our best evidence, sort of not discounting scientific fact, as you form your beliefs, autonomy, freedom, liberty, you certainly see a large overlap with a libertarian point of view.
Yeah, I don't see them giving big opinions about Bitcoin or banking standards.
Yeah, that's not really their thing.
Ending the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, and they're not, right? People want to say, like, is this a religion or is this a political group? And in fact, it's obviously a religion, because if it wasn't a religion, nothing that I'm saying makes any sense, right? So they are engaging in political activism because in America, religions engage in political activism. Like, get used to it. Like, no one says, is the Catholic Church really a political group because they engage in lobbying? It's like, well, no, they're Catholics and they're bringing their deeply held beliefs to bear on their political views. It's the same with Satanists.
And an organization that's sort of the shadow of the shadow side of Christianity, in a sense, actually appeals to a lot of Christians. You should in your documentary.
I think so.
What is the appeal there?
Well, I think for a lot of the people that I met over the years doing this film, they were raised in a world where the fear of hell, the fear of the devil, was used as an abusive tool to keep them in line, to keep them obedient, and to keep them from questioning grown-ups, basically, when they were little children. And so for very, very many Satanists, kind of embracing blasphemy, embracing the kind of destruction of the symbols that represent that religion that tyrannize them, is extremely liberating.
The day that I graduated confirmation, we're sitting in church and, we're supposed to feel the Holy Spirit come in, and I'm just like, okay.
So, we look at their religious practice, some of their ritual practices, and we say, like, well, why are they doing all these offensive things? They're just trying to upset Catholics. And you're like, well, no, they're doing those things privately, so it obviously has nothing to do with what you think about it. It doesn't matter. And if you don't like it, you're probably not a Satanist. Don't worry, they're not trying to convert you. But for someone who feels this kind of last vestige of fear that they're going to go to hell if they say the words "Hail Satan" or like smash a cross, to do those things and to realize that lightning's not going to strike them down is a hugely cathartic experience, and it's very liberating for them.
It's kind of amazing that that happens in adulthood for people.
Yes, it does. And I think I've met many people who didn't turn away from the faith they were raised in until middle age. It's not an exclusively adolescent phenomenon, although I would say most of the Satanists that I met did come to something like Satanism in their rebellious youth. And the ones who stick around are the ones who are actually really interested in the philosophy, not like just annoying people.
Another thing that really interested me about the film is that you see the transition in the beginning of the film from troll culture to, hey, maybe this is an actual religion. Maybe we're actually starting to gain a following here. And there's more than a little implication that maybe this is how Christianity started?
Yeah, or maybe all religions, really. I mean, there's kind of like everyone's very annoyed by the new religion in town, aren't they? Like, they seem quite annoying to everyone.
It's a competitor.
Yes, it's a competitor, and they look at them and they're like, these are crazy ideas. How could they believe those things? That's no surprise. It's just it's the 21st century, so we've got it all on YouTube clips. So it's easier to sort of see the way that that transition occurred in front of our eyes, you know? But there's really no question in my mind at this point that when you ask, not you, but when one asks, you know, are they serious or are they joking? The answer is both. I mean, Satanism is really fun, and it's kind of about being fun. Yeah. Like, it's sort of about, you know, that kind of impish, you know, sort of rebellious, that kind of person who's always felt like in every group they were the one who was like forced to say, oh, you know, like, come on, guys, like, why is this dogma settling into place? Like, there's a bunch of people who have this feeling that they're that kind of person. I've always felt like that kind of person who has to kind of be the skeptic in the room. So then having a religion where all those individual skeptics in the room get to like be together has been profoundly transformative for them, and also I think for culture, because they are really having an impact in the world, like it or not.
I remember as a child in elementary school, I had to stand up with the rest of the class every morning and sing "God Bless America." And even as an atheist, as a young atheist, I remember thinking, this is like uncomfortable. This is weird, and I wish I had some sort of way to express my displeasure.
Totally, and I felt the same way. You know, I mean, saying the Pledge of Allegiance every day in school and really chafing at the idea of saying under God, but not having the courage to be like a huge pain in the ass, you know, and like make a big scene about it. Yeah, I mean, and sort of making that choice, because most of us say we want to stand up for what's right, stand up for what we believe in. But at the end of the day, what we really want is for our friends to like us and to get along. So the Satanists are like really walking the walk. They do not care if people like them. They know that people don't like them. And they're like, whatever. And I just think, I have to say, I think that's heroic. Yeah. I really do. The film for me was really about elevating that kind of person to a heroic status and then seeing how people react to that.
Well, they had that contrarian theatrical element to them that I think they get off on pissing people off, right? They kind of enjoy that.
They absolutely do. I would say they don't do everything they do to piss people off, but they sure enjoy that it happens along the way.
Yeah, it's icing on the cake for sure. And are they successful? Where are they now? Is the movement still growing? Is it petering out? What's going on with them?
They're really successful. There's no petering out happening. There's new chapters opening all the time. There's in fact such a great demand for new chapters that the national organization had to kind of put a freeze on it, because they were like, we can't handle this paperwork. We're just people with day jobs and kids, and we're doing this nights and weekends. I mean, it has this way of looking very impressive, but it really is like rubber bands and volunteer effort at this point. But yeah, they're being really successful in different places around the country. They are continuing to fight their fights. You know, they had a really successful holiday monument battle in Chicago recently. The Boston City Council is being challenged in courts. It's the same as the Arizona kind of city councils, which were illegally discriminating against Satanists in their prayer policies. The lawsuit in Arizona about the Baphomet monument is ongoing. And the interesting thing about that one is that, you know, other groups are suing the state of Arkansas to take down the Ten Commandments monument that was put on state property last year, 2 years ago now. But the Satanic Temple actually has a different remedy. Every other group, the ACLU, the secular groups, they all want to take the Ten Commandments down. The Satanic Temple's remedy is put our statue up. So, you know, it's quite interesting. It's a different, everyone assumes they don't really want this. They just want to cause trouble and get that Ten Commandments down, but that's not the outcome they're seeking in their lawsuit. And of course, the reproductive rights lawsuit in Missouri is continuing as well, where they're using the Hobby Lobby precedent to say that as Satanists, they feel they should be exempt from mandatory waiting periods and informed consent material that is not scientific and based on an explicitly Christian worldview. So that continues as well. So they're not stopping. They're not going to stop. I think most politicians are just kind of like, if we wait this out, they'll go away. And I'm telling you, they're not going away.
You seem to have an affinity for these people. Are you a Satanist?
Oh, it's a great question. First, I want to say I never thought I'd be in a position in my life where I had to explain so often why I'm not a Satanist. It's a very interesting position to be in, and one that I've put myself into. I did not become a Satanist in making this film. I feel extremely sympathetic to their worldview. I think that their religion is a very good religion. If I were going to join a religion, it would probably be Satanism. But at the end of the day, it's a religious identity. It's not a t-shirt. You don't just put it on. And it doesn't resonate within me. And I think it's because I was raised so completely a-religious. Like there was just nothing. Like I didn't have any religious education. So these symbols don't do much for me. Like I don't care, like, you know, Satan doesn't do anything, God doesn't do anything, like, none of these images mean anything to me. So it doesn't have the resonance that it has for a real Satanist. A real Satanist would have an emotional reaction to the image of Satan, even while they know it's not a real guy. And I just don't. So I remain an unaffiliated, individualistic, lonely atheist.
And on that note, I thank you very much.
Thank you, this was fun.
Yeah, Penny Lane, the director of a wonderful new film called Hail Satan, ? Coming out when?
April 17th, across the country.
April 17th across the country. See it, it's a lot of fun, it's a hoot. I'm Todd Cranen for Reason.
My creator, my creator, my creator, my creator, yeah. My creator, my creator, my creator, my creator, my creator, yeah. My creator said I'ma forever love you, through the good and the bad and the ugly. My creator doesn't ever hold grudges. My creator only one could ever judge me. My creator conscience was here first.